The stars beyond the observation deck looked peaceful. Dr. Jinseo Park watched them while sipping her morning coffee. The same ritual she had followed for 3 years at Frontier Station Meridian. The station floated in the quiet darkness, far from Earth, far from any major shipping lanes. It was exactly where they wanted to be. Meridian was not a military base. It had no weapons. The 847 people living there were scientists, engineers, and their families. They studied the unusual stellar phenomena in this region, the strange way certain stars pulsed and shifted. The research could help humanity understand the universe better. That was all they wanted to do. Jin-So finished her coffee and checked the daily schedule. Her team would continue mapping the gravitational anomalies in Sector 7. Dr. Chen's group would analyze yesterday's solar flare data. The children in the education wing would have their astronomy lesson. Everything was normal. Everything was safe. She did not know that 16 Kethrix warships had just entered the system. The Kethrix Empire had been watching human expansion for decades. They were a proud species, tall reptilian beings with scales that shimmered like oil on water. Their empire stretched across 40 star systems, and they did not like competition. When humans began exploring this region, the Kethrix saw it as an insult. This was their space. Humans were newcomers, barely worthy of notice. The Kethrix High Command had debated what to do about the humans. Some suggested negotiation. Others wanted to establish clear boundaries. But Supreme Commander Vesh Kar had a different idea. He believed in sending messages through action. If you wanted to stop human expansion, you showed them the cost. You made them afraid. Frontier Station Meridian would be the message. The attack happened at 9:47 station time. Jin-So was in the main lab when the first alarm sounded. She looked up, confused. They rarely had alarms. Maybe it was a drill. But then the second alarm came, and the third, and suddenly every screen in the room turned red. Unidentified vessels detected, the computer announced. Multiple weapons signatures. This is not a drill. Jin-So's heart stopped. She ran to the nearest console and pulled up the external cameras. What she saw made her blood turn cold. 16 massive ships surrounded the station. They were dark and angular, covered in weapons. They looked like they were built for only one purpose. Open a channel, Jin-So ordered. Her voice shook, but she forced herself to stay calm. All frequencies. Let me talk to them. The communications officer worked frantically. Channel open, Commander. Jin-So took a breath. This is Dr. Jinseo Park, Commander of Frontier Station Meridian. We are a civilian research facility. We are not armed. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. There was no response. The alien ships simply moved closer. Please, Jin-So said again. We have families here. Children. We mean no harm to anyone. We are just scientists. Still nothing. Then the weapons began to charge. Jin-So could see the energy building on the enemy ship's hulls, bright and terrible. Evacuate, she screamed into the station-wide intercom. Everyone to the escape pods. Move now. People ran through the corridors. Parents grabbed their children. Scientists abandoned their work. Everyone rushed toward the evacuation points. But they were too slow. The station was too big. There were too many people and not enough time. The first shot struck the residential section. The explosion tore through 3 decks instantly. 90 people died before they could even scream. The second shot hit the main reactor. Emergency systems kicked in, but it did not matter. The third shot, the fourth, the fifth. They kept coming. Jin-So made it to an escape pod with 12 others. As they launched, she looked back at the station through the small window. Meridian was breaking apart. Explosions blossomed across its surface like deadly flowers. She saw another pod launch, then watched in horror as an alien ship destroyed it with a casual shot. They were not trying to disable the station. They were not trying to capture it. They were simply erasing it. Jin Seo's pod managed to enter emergency slip space. It was a blind jump, uncontrolled, but it got them away. As they vanished into the quantum tunnel, the last thing the pod's sensors recorded was Frontier Station Meridian's final moment. The alien ships fired together, and the station simply ceased to exist. The automated distress beacon survived. It was a small device, built to withstand almost anything, designed to record and transmit if the worst ever happened. It captured everything: the alien ships, the attack, the methodical destruction, the futility of the evacuation. 847 people, reduced to scattered debris in less than 10 minutes. The beacon transmitted its data to the nearest human relay, then to the next, then to Earth. Within hours, every human government had seen the footage. Within a day, so had the Galactic Council. The council chambers filled with representatives from dozens of species. They watched the transmission in silence. Some were horrified. Others were calculating. The Valorians, always cautious, immediately began analyzing what this meant for galactic stability. The Tharn offered their sympathies. The Keegs worried about setting precedents. The Kethrik's ambassador stood and spoke without shame. The humans were warned to stay out of our space. They ignored the warning. Actions have consequences. Everyone expected the human ambassador to respond, to rage, to demand justice, to threaten retaliation. But Ambassador Choi Min-jun simply stood, bowed slightly to the council, and left without saying a single word. That was when Earth went silent. Every human diplomat returned home. Every human ship in alien ports departed. Every communication channel went dark. The thousands of human trade missions, cultural exchanges, and scientific collaborations simply stopped. It was as if humanity had withdrawn from the galaxy entirely. The Kethriks celebrated. Supreme Commander Veshkar gave a speech about strength and borders. His people cheered. They had shown the humans their place. Now the newcomers would know to fear the Kethrik's empire. But some species were not celebrating. The Valorians had been watching humanity for years. They knew humans better than most. And they noticed something that worried them deeply. Earth was quiet, yes. But human military shipyards were not. Energy signatures suggested massive activity. Hundreds of vessels were moving, but not in patterns that made sense. They were disappearing from sensors, one by one, as if someone was carefully hiding an enormous fleet. Zeke 7, a Valorian intelligence analyst, sent an urgent report to his superiors. The humans are not retreating. They are preparing. We need to warn the Kethriks. But the Kethriks were too busy celebrating to listen to warnings. They had sent their message. They had won their victory. They did not understand that humanity was about to send a reply. 3 days after the massacre at Meridian, the Kethriks Empire held a victory parade on their capital world. Supreme Commander Veshkar stood on a platform overlooking thousands of cheering citizens. Banners waved. Drums thundered. The message was clear. The Kethriks were strong, and anyone who challenged them would be destroyed. We have shown the galaxy our power, Veshkar declared. His voice boomed across the plaza. The humans thought they could expand into our territory. We have taught them otherwise. Let this be a lesson to all who would test the Kethriks Empire. The crowd roared its approval. Military commanders stood proud. Politicians congratulated themselves. No one seemed worried about human retaliation. Why would they be? Humans were merchants and scientists. They built trading posts and research stations. They did not build weapons. They did not have the stomach for real war. At least, that was what everyone believed. Across the galaxy, other species watched and waited. The Galactic Council had reconvened twice to discuss the situation. But without human participation, there was little they could do. Some species suggested sanctions against the Kethriks. Others argued that territorial disputes were not the Council's business. Nothing was decided. Nothing was done. But intelligence services were working overtime. Zix-7 sat in his small office on the Valorian monitoring station, staring at his screens with growing alarm. The Valorians were not warriors. They were observers, analysts, traders of information. They had eyes and ears throughout the galaxy. And right now, those eyes were seeing something very strange. Human naval vessels were disappearing, not destroyed, not captured, simply vanishing from every tracking system the Valorians had. A destroyer would be recorded at Mars' orbital dock one day, then gone the next, with no departure logged. A carrier group would leave Jupiter, enter what should be normal space, and never arrive at its destination. No debris, no distress calls, just gone. Zix-7 pulled up his latest data. In the past 72 hours, 137 human military ships had vanished from sensors. That was not normal movement. That was not coincidence. Someone was hiding a fleet, and they were doing it very well. He contacted his supervisor immediately. We need to issue a warning to the Kethrix. The humans are mobilizing. His supervisor, an older Valorian named Tix-9, studied the data carefully. Are you certain? Could these ships simply be using new stealth technology? That is exactly what worries me, Zix-7 replied. If humans have developed stealth capabilities this advanced, what else have they been hiding? Tix-9 considered this. The Valorians prided themselves on knowing everyone's capabilities. They sold that information to the highest bidder. But if humans had been concealing their true military strength, it meant Valorian intelligence had failed. It also meant the galaxy's understanding of the power balance was completely wrong. Send the warning, Tix-9 decided. Mark it urgent. The Kethrix need to know. The message reached Kethrix High Command within hours. It was delivered to Supreme Commander Veshkar personally. He read it, laughed, and deleted it. The Valorians are trying to create panic, he told his advisors. They want us to pay for protection information. It is a scam. The humans are hiding in fear. Nothing more. One of his junior officers, a young commander named Shkara, spoke up hesitantly. Supreme Commander, what if they are right? What if the humans are planning something? Veshkar's eyes narrowed. Are you questioning my judgment? No, sir. I only suggest. Perhaps we should increase patrols. Strengthen our defenses. Just as a precaution. Our defenses are already the strongest in the galaxy, Veshkar said coldly. We have nothing to fear from humans. Dismissed. Veshkar 7. 11. 11. Veshkar 7. 11. 11. 111. Kara left the meeting with a bad feeling in his stomach. Something about this situation felt wrong. The humans had been present in galactic affairs for decades. They traded, negotiated, and cooperated with everyone. Then one attack, and they all vanished? That did not seem like fear. That seemed like preparation. He was not the only one thinking this way. On Earth, in the deepest levels of the United Defense Command Center, Admiral Lee Hyun-woo stood before a massive holographic display. It showed the position of every human military vessel in known space. Or rather, it showed where those vessels had been. Right now, they were somewhere else entirely, hidden in the quantum shadows between normal space and slip space, impossible to detect. Final count? Admiral Lee asked. 312 vessels, sir, replied Captain Sarah Chen. Every deep strike ship we have. The entire Alpha Fleet. 2/3 of Beta Fleet. And the experimental units from Titan shipyards. Time to target? 14 days at current speed. We will arrive in the Kethrix home system exactly 3 weeks after the Meridian attack. Admiral Lee nodded slowly. His face showed no emotion. But inside, he felt the cold weight of what they were about to do. He had seen the footage from Meridian. He had read Dr. Jin Seo Park's final logs, recovered from her escape pod. He knew exactly what had happened to those 847 people. "Any word from the survivors?" he asked quietly. Dr. Park's pod was recovered. 13 people survived. The rest. Captain Chen did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. "And the council? Any attempts to negotiate?" "None, sir. The Kethricks have refused all diplomatic contact. They consider the matter closed." Admiral Lee turned to look at the younger officers in the command center. They were all professionals, well-trained, disciplined, but he could see the anger in their eyes. They knew what they were sailing toward. They knew what they had been ordered to do. 3 weeks ago, Admiral Lee said, his voice carrying across the silent room, the Kethricks Empire attacked a civilian research station. They did not warn us. They did not negotiate. They did not give our people a chance to surrender. They simply erased them. He paused, letting the words sink in. For decades, we have kept our true capabilities hidden. We built trade ships and science vessels because we wanted to be part of the galactic community. We wanted peace, but we always knew that someday, someone might mistake our kindness for weakness. Someone might think that because we did not show our weapons, we did not have any. The display shifted, showing the Kethricks' home system. 12 planets. Hundreds of orbital stations. Billions of people. The Kethricks will learn differently, Admiral Lee continued. They will learn that humanity's greatest weapon was never our technology. It was our restraint. And they will learn what happens when that restraint is removed. He turned back to his officers. Execute the plan. Maintain communications. Silence. No warnings. No negotiations. No mercy. "Yes, sir," Captain Chen replied. Across human space, similar conversations were happening. Diplomats were briefed on what was coming. Colonial governors prepared for possible retaliation. Defense stations went to maximum alert. Everyone knew something terrible was about to happen. But no one outside the military command knew exactly what. Ambassador Choi Min-jun sat in his office on Earth, looking at a picture of Frontier Station Meridian. He had visited it once, years ago. He remembered the children playing in the observation dome, watching the stars. He remembered Dr. Park showing him her research with such enthusiasm. Now they were gone. All of them. He had tried to find another way. He had argued in the emergency cabinet meetings for sanctions, for blockades, for anything except what was about to happen. But the decision had been made at the highest levels. The Kethricks had not just attacked humans. They had attacked defenseless civilians without warning or mercy. There would be a response, and it would be absolute. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, 312 human warships flew in perfect silence toward the Kethricks' home system. They carried weapons that the galaxy had never seen. They carried the fury of a species that had tried to be peaceful, and they carried a simple message. Touch our innocent. Lose your world. 21 days after the Meridian massacre, the Kethricks' home system was quiet. Morning sunlight touched the capital world, warming the scales of billions going about their daily lives. Children went to school. Workers traveled to factories and offices. Ships moved between planets carrying goods and passengers. It was an ordinary day. At exactly 8 local time, space tore open. The human fleet emerged from quantum slipspace in perfect formation. 312 warships appeared simultaneously at coordinates surrounding the Kethricks' homeworld. They had not jumped to the edge of the system. They had not approached cautiously. They had appeared directly at their target, close enough that the Kethricks had no time to prepare. On the planet below, alarms began screaming. Supreme Commander Veshkar was in a morning strategy meeting when his aide burst through the door, scales pale with fear. "Supreme Commander, we are under attack." Veshkar stood so quickly his chair fell backward. "What? By whom?" "Humans, sir. Hundreds of ships. They are already in orbit." For a moment, Veshkar could not process the words. It was impossible. Humans did not have hundreds of warships. They did not have the technology to jump directly into a defended system. They were merchants, not warriors. This had to be a mistake. Then he reached the command center and saw the displays. His blood turned to ice. The human fleet was enormous. Every ship was larger than Kethric's vessels, covered in weapons he did not recognize. They hung in space like dark predators. And they were not waiting for negotiations. They were already firing. The Kethrics had orbital defense platforms, massive stations bristling with weapons designed to protect the homeworld from any attack. They were considered invincible. The humans destroyed them in 17 minutes. It was not even a battle. It was an execution. Human weapons fired beams of concentrated energy that simply erased matter. Shields that had withstood decades of testing vanished like smoke. Armor that could resist nuclear weapons melted like ice. One by one, the great defense platforms died. And there was nothing the Kethrics could do to stop it. "Return fire!" Veshkar roared. "Deploy the fleet! Defend our home!" The Kethrics' home fleet scrambled to respond. 200 warships, the pride of the Empire, launched from their docks and raced toward the human invaders. They were fast, well-armed, and crewed by experienced warriors who had conquered a dozen worlds. They lasted 43 minutes. The human ships moved with impossible precision. They coordinated perfectly, each vessel knowing exactly where the others would be. Kethric's missiles were intercepted before they could reach their targets. Kethric's energy weapons splashed harmlessly against human shields, and human return fire was devastating. Commander Shkera commanded one of the Kethric's destroyers. He had tried to warn them. He had said something was wrong. Now he watched his people die and knew this was his last battle. "Target the lead human vessel," he ordered his weapons officer. Full power. They fired everything they had. Their strongest missiles, their most powerful energy cannons. Everything. The human ship's shields flickered for a moment, then held. The return fire turned Shikara's destroyer into expanding gas. His last thought was that they had made a terrible mistake. The Kethric's home fleet was destroyed. Every ship, every station, every defensive satellite. The humans swept through the system methodically, removing any military presence with clinical efficiency. And then they broadcast a message. Admiral Lee Hyun-woo's face appeared on every screen in the Kethric's home system. He spoke in clear, simple language that the translation systems easily handled. "I am Admiral Lee Hyun-woo of the United Earth Defense Force. 21 days ago, your military attacked and destroyed Frontier Station Meridian. 847 human civilians died. Scientists, engineers, families, children. They were not soldiers. They were not a threat. They were simply people trying to understand the universe." He paused. His face showed no anger, no rage, only cold determination. "You gave them no warning. You gave them no chance to surrender. You simply erased them. Today, we return the favor. This is for Meridian. There will be no mercy." The bombardment began. Human ships moved into firing positions over every major city, every military base, every industrial center on the Kethric's homeworld. What came next was not random destruction. It was surgical devastation. Military installations were the first to go. Every army base, every weapons factory, every command center was hit with precision strikes that left nothing but craters. Then came the industrial targets, power plants, manufacturing complexes, shipyards, research facilities. The humans destroyed the Kethric's empire's ability to make war. Veshkar watched his civilization being dismantled piece by piece. "Target their command ship," he screamed at his remaining officers. "Hit them with everything we have left." "Sir, we have nothing left," an aide said quietly. "All weapons platforms are destroyed. The fleet is gone. We cannot fight back." "Then evacuate the cities. Get people underground." "We are trying, sir." But they are targeting our transportation networks, roads, rail lines, landing pads. People cannot move fast enough. Veshkar felt true terror for the first time in his life. The humans were not just attacking military targets. They were crippling the entire infrastructure of Kethric civilization, and they were doing it with such precision that he knew this had been planned long before Meridian. The humans had always had these weapons. They had simply never shown them. The bombardment continued for hours. Human ships rotated positions, ensuring continuous fire. They used weapons that ranged from conventional explosives to energy beams to devices that seemed to manipulate gravity itself. The variety suggested they were field testing their entire arsenal. Cities were not destroyed, but everything around them was. Power stations, water treatment plants, communication towers. Hospitals remained untouched, but the roads leading to them were shattered. Schools were spared, but the Education Ministry building was rubble. The message was clear. The Kethric's people would live, but their civilization would not. As the second day of bombardment began, a junior Kethric's officer approached Veshkar. "Supreme Commander, we should surrender. Send a message. Stop this." Veshkar wanted to refuse. Pride demanded it. But looking at the displays, seeing his world burning, he knew there was no choice. He activated the emergency transmission system. "Human fleet, this is Supreme Commander Veshkar. We surrender. Please, stop the attack. We surrender." There was no response. The bombardment continued. "Please." Veshkar tried again. "We made a mistake. We will accept any terms. Just stop." Admiral Lee's face appeared on the screen again. "You did not let the people of Meridian surrender, Supreme Commander. You simply killed them. Consider this your lesson in proportional response." The transmission ended. The bombardment continued. For 3 full days, the human fleet systematically destroyed every military and industrial target on the Kethric's homeworld and its colonial planets. Billions of Kethrics survived, but their empire was gone. Their fleet was destroyed. Their factories were rubble. Their government buildings were craters. The humans had reduced one of the galaxy's major powers to a pre-industrial state. On the 4th day, the human ships began to withdraw. They left no occupation force. They did not demand tribute. They simply destroyed what they came to destroy, and left. As the last human vessel prepared to enter slipspace, Admiral Lee broadcast one final message to the Kethrics and to every species monitoring the situation. Let it be known across the galaxy. Humanity seeks peace. We build, we trade, we cooperate, but we are not weak. We are not helpless, and we will not allow our innocent to be slaughtered without consequence. To any who would test us, we have shown you the price. Choose wisely. The human fleet vanished into quantum space, leaving the Kethric's home system in ruins. Supreme Commander Veshkar stood in his destroyed command center, looking at the smoke rising from his world. He had wanted to send a message to humanity. He had succeeded, but the response had been more terrible than he could have imagined. The Kethrics had attacked a human outpost. Earth had silenced them by destroying their civilization, and the galaxy would never forget. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so crowded. Every species sent their highest-ranking diplomats. Every news service in known space watched. The emergency session had been called within hours of the human fleet's withdrawal from Kethric space, and now the entire galaxy waited to see what would happen next. Ambassador Choi Min-jun entered the chamber alone. He walked calmly to the human delegation's seat, a space that had been empty for 3 weeks. Every eye in the room followed him. Some looked at him with fear, others with anger, a few with something that might have been respect. The council chair, an ancient Kiex named Harmonizer Vel, spoke first. Her translator device made her chittering speech understandable to all. Ambassador Choi, the council has witnessed the Events in Kethric's space. We have many questions. I am prepared to answer them, Choi replied. His voice was calm. Professional. You destroyed an entire civilization. The Tharn representative stood, his fur bristling with agitation. The Kethric's homeworld is in ruins. Billions suffer. This is not justice. This is genocide. No one is dead. Choi said simply. The Kethric's people live. Their cities stand. We targeted their military and industrial infrastructure exclusively. Compare that to Meridian, where the Kethric's targeted civilians exclusively. You bombed them for 3 days. They killed 847 of our people in 10 minutes, Choi replied. They attacked a research station. There were children there. Scientists, people who meant no harm to anyone. The Kethric's showed them no mercy, gave them no warning, allowed them no surrender. We showed the Kethric's all 3. Their people survived. Ours did not. A Valorian diplomat spoke up. Ambassador, our intelligence services had no indication that humanity possessed such military capabilities. You have hidden your true strength for decades. Why? 8. Choi turned to face the Valorian delegation. Would you trust a species that immediately showed you all their weapons? Or would you trust one that came in peace and kept their defenses private? We wanted to be part of the galactic community. We wanted trade, cooperation, friendship. We did not want to be feared. And now? Harmonizer Vel asked. Now the galaxy knows the truth, Choi said. We can build, and we can destroy. We prefer to build. But we will destroy anyone who murders our civilians. The Kethric's ambassador, a scarred veteran named Krixtar, who had survived the bombardment, stood with difficulty. His voice shook with emotion. You have crippled my people for generations. We have no fleet, no factories, no way to rebuild. You have condemned us to poverty and suffering. You still have your lives, Choi said, looking directly at Krixtar. You still have your families. You still have your children. The people of Meridian have none of those things. You took everything from them. We left you with the opportunity to rebuild. That is more mercy than you showed us. This is not how civilized species behave, the Tharn representative insisted. There are laws, protocols. You should have brought your grievance to this council. Would the council have done anything? Choi asked quietly. The question hung in the air. Would you have sanctioned the Kethric's? Would you have demanded reparations? Would you have even condemned the attack? No one answered. They all knew the truth. The council talked. It debated. It issued statements. But it rarely acted. The Kethric's would have received a formal criticism at most, and that would have been the end of it. We learned long ago not to rely on others for our security, Choi continued. Earth's history is full of examples where words failed and action was required. We hoped the galaxy would be different. We hoped that civilization meant something. But the Kethric's taught us otherwise. The 70'd, end quote. So this is your policy now? A small voice asked. It was a Prixian diplomat, a species known for their pacifism. Violence for violence? Destruction for destruction? Choi shook his head. No. This is our policy. Leave our civilians alone. Attack our military if you must. Challenge us in markets, in negotiations, in any peaceful forum. But touch our innocent, our families, our children, and you will face consequences so severe that your species will remember them for generations. He activated a holographic display. 2 images appeared side by side. One showed Frontier Station Meridian, as it had been. A beautiful structure floating in space. Observation domes gleaming. Ships docked peacefully. The other showed the Kethric's homeworld before the attack. Cities gleaming. Ships flying. Civilization thriving. This is what we built, Choi said, indicating Meridian. A place of learning and discovery. open to any species who wished to visit. We welcomed Kethric scientists to this station multiple times. We shared our research freely. The images changed. Now they showed Meridian's destruction. The debris field, the scattered bodies, the emergency pods that had been shot down, and the Kethric's homeworld after. The ruined factories, the shattered infrastructure, the smoking craters, where military bases had stood. This is what violence brings, Choi said. The Kethrics chose to destroy what we built. We responded by destroying their ability to make war. Both civilizations paid a terrible price, but only one chose to start this. Only one attacked the innocent. The chamber was silent. The images were too powerful to argue against. The galaxy could see exactly what had happened. The unprovoked massacre at Meridian. The systematic devastation of Kethric's military power. There is something else you should know. Choi continued. We have evidence that 3 other species were planning similar attacks on human installations. The Draxon Collective considered our mining station in the Outer Rim to be a territorial violation. The Seth clans viewed our colony on New Terra as an insult. The Vraxi hegemony wanted to test humanity's resolve. He paused, letting that sink in. All 3 have quietly canceled their plans. Why? Because they saw what happened to the Kethrics. They learned that humanity's restraint should not be mistaken for weakness. They learned that we are willing to accept many things, but not the murder of our people. Harmonizer Vel clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. We have used consequences to prevent war, Choi corrected. Fear fades, but memory lasts. Every species in this chamber will remember what happened to the Kethrics, and when future governments consider attacking human civilians, they will remember. And what if someone attacks you anyway? The Tharn representative asked. What if a species decides your response was too extreme and seeks revenge? Then they will join the Kethrics in learning what proportional devastation means, Choi said. His voice was not threatening. It was simply factual. We did not want this. We did not want to be the species that others fear. But we will be the species that protects its people, whatever the cost. And ever. This will change everything, a Zalorian diplomat said quietly. The power balance of the entire galaxy shifts today. Humanity is now one of the major military powers. Humanity was always a major military power, Choi replied. We simply chose not to advertise it. We built science ships instead of warships. We established trade routes instead of military bases. We invested in research instead of weapons development. But we always had the ability to defend ourselves. The Kethrics forced us to prove it. Krixtar, the Kethrics ambassador, spoke again. His voice was bitter, but defeated. What happens to my people now? You have destroyed our future. How do we survive? Choi looked at him for a long moment. The same way humanity survived every time our civilizations destroyed themselves. You rebuild. You remember. You teach your children what happens when you choose violence over diplomacy. And perhaps, in a few generations, you will rejoin the galactic community as a wiser species. Will you help us? Krixtar asked, and there was something desperate in his voice. No, Choi said firmly. You created this situation. You will repair it. We will not prevent other species from offering aid, but humanity will not contribute. The cost of attacking Meridian is that you face the consequences alone. Harmonizer Vel raised her voice to address the entire chamber. The Council must now decide how to respond to these events. Humanity has acted outside Council authority. The precedent this sets is dangerous. Round. The precedent the Kethric set was more dangerous, Choi replied. They established that civilian installations could be attacked without warning or consequence. We have established that such actions will be answered with overwhelming force. I would argue that our precedent makes the galaxy safer. The debate continued for hours. Some species called for sanctions against humanity. Others argued that the humans had every right to defend themselves. A few quietly began reaching out to human diplomats about mutual defense treaties. Not because they feared human aggression, but because they feared their neighbors and wanted human protection. In the end, the Council issued a formal statement expressing concern about the level of destruction, but acknowledging humanity's right to respond to aggression. It was a meaningless compromise that changed nothing. Everyone knew the real decision had already been made in the ruins of the Kethrix homeworld. As Choi prepared to leave the chamber, Zeeks, 7, the Valorian analyst who had tried to warn the Kethrix, approached him quietly. "Ambassador, a question if I may. Did you always plan to respond this way? Was this always your doctrine?" Choi considered the question carefully. "We hoped we would never have to. We built our hidden fleet as insurance, the same way you keep locks on your doors. You hope never to need them. But you prepare anyway." The Kethrix could have negotiated. They could have established borders peacefully. They chose violence instead. And if they had destroyed a human military base instead of a research station, then our response would have been proportional to a military target. A battle. A conflict. Not what you saw. We distinguish between attacking our soldiers and attacking our children. Zeeks, 7. The Kethrix made the wrong choice. Choi left the council chamber. Behind him, the galaxy tried to process what had just happened. The age of humanity hiding its strength was over. A new age had begun. One where every species knew that humans could be peaceful neighbors or devastating enemies. And the choice of which they became was entirely in the hands of those who interacted with them. The message was clear. Humanity would rather build than destroy. But they could do both better than anyone expected. 6 months had passed since the human fleet withdrew from Kethrix space. The galaxy was still adjusting to its new reality, still processing what the destruction of the Kethrix Empire meant for everyone. On the Kethrix homeworld, Shkara walked through the ruins of what had once been the Central Military Command. She had survived the battle, one of the few ship commanders who lived through that terrible day. Now she was part of the rebuilding effort, though there was so little to rebuild with. The humans had been precise in their devastation. Food production facilities still functioned. Medical centers still stood. Water treatment plants still worked. But everything else was gone. No factories to make tools. No power plants to provide electricity beyond basic needs. No transportation infrastructure to move goods efficiently. The Kethrix Empire had been reduced to a pre-industrial society in 3 days, and climbing back would take generations. Shkara's communicator buzzed. It was a simple device, cobbled together from salvaged parts. Modern Kethrix technology was a memory now. Everything had to be rebuilt from scratch. "Commander Shkara, you are needed at the memorial site," the voice said. She made her way through streets that were slowly being cleared of debris. People worked with hand tools now. Electricity was rationed for hospitals and food storage. Everything else was done the old way, with muscle and determination. The Kethrix were a proud species. They would survive. But the humiliation of what they had become would never fade. The memorial site was at the former location of the Supreme Command Building, where Veshkar had given his victory speech so long ago. Now it was a crater, and someone had placed a simple stone marker at its center. All the names from Frontier Station Meridian, 847 humans who had died because of Kethrix arrogance. A crowd had gathered. Shh. Kara saw Kethrix of all ages, many wearing the makeshift clothes that had become common since their factories stopped producing textiles. They were waiting for her. She had become something she never expected. A voice of truth in a society that had believed its own propaganda for too long. She stepped forward and began to speak. "We attacked a human research station 6 months ago. We killed scientists. We killed families. We killed children. We did it because we thought we were strong, and we thought they were weak." The crowd was silent. "Shh," Kara continued. "I fought in the battle that followed. I saw our fleet destroyed. I saw our defenses erased like they were made of paper, and I learned something important that day. The humans were always strong. They simply chose not to show it. They chose peace. We chose violence. And this is the result. She gestured to the ruins around them. Some of you are angry. You think the human response was too harsh. You think they should have been more merciful. But I was there. I saw what Supreme Commander Veshkar ordered. He told us to leave no survivors. He told us to make an example. And the humans did exactly the same to us. A young Kethrix in the crowd spoke up. So we deserved this? Yes, Shkara said simply. We deserved exactly what we got. We struck first. We struck without warning. We struck the innocent. The humans returned the favor, but they left us alive. That is more mercy than we showed them. She looked at the names on the memorial stone. I want every young Kethrix to read these names. I want you to understand that these were real people. They had dreams. They had families. They were studying the universe, trying to learn and grow. And we killed them because they were in space we claimed as ours. Shkara's voice grew stronger. Never forget this lesson. Never forget what our arrogance cost us. The galaxy is not ours to control. And species that seem peaceful may simply be choosing peace. Do not mistake that choice for weakness. She activated a small projector, another salvaged device. It showed footage she had recorded during the battle. Human ships moving in perfect coordination. Kethrix vessels being destroyed one after another. The systematic dismantling of their defenses. This is what we faced, she said. This is what happens when you attack someone's innocent. The humans have a saying. Do not mistake silence for weakness. We learned that lesson in blood and ash. The footage changed to show the bombardment of the homeworld. People in the crowd looked away, unable to watch. But Shkara made them listen. The humans could have killed us all. Their weapons were powerful enough, but they chose to destroy our military power instead. They chose to leave us alive. They chose to give us the chance to rebuild. That was a choice. And it was more mercy than we deserved. She closed the projector. I am recording this message and sending it to every world in the galaxy. Not just to Kethrix, but to everyone. Because there are others who might make the same mistake we did. There are others who might see a peaceful species and think they can take advantage. They need to know the truth. Shkara looked directly at the crowd. The humans want peace. They truly do. But they are not pacifists. They are not weak. They are simply waiting for you to make the choice. Coexist peacefully, or face the consequences. We chose poorly. Learn from our mistake. Far across the galaxy, in the rebuilt facilities of the Galactic Council, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Ambassador Choi sat across from representatives of 6 different species. They had requested this meeting privately, away from the public sessions. Ambassador, the Zalorian representative began, our species would like to discuss a mutual defense agreement with humanity. We are not interested in alliances, Choi replied. We have made that clear. Not an alliance, the Valorian diplomat Zix-7 clarified. A simple agreement. If we are attacked, we would like the option to request human assistance. In exchange, we would offer the same to human installations. Choi studied them carefully. You are afraid of your neighbors, not of humans. After seeing what happened to the Kethrix, yes, Zix-7 admitted. We are not a military power. We rely on information and diplomacy. But some species respect only strength. Having humanity as a potential protector would give us security. You want us to be the galaxy's police force, Choi said. We want you to be a deterrent, the Zalorian said. Your very existence prevents conflicts now. Species that might have fought over territory are negotiating instead. Pirates who once raided freely are finding legitimate work. The galaxy is more peaceful now than it was before Meridian. And it is because everyone knows that attacking the innocent brings human consequences. Choi considered this. It was true. Human intelligence had reported a significant decrease in military conflicts across the galaxy. Species were negotiating instead of fighting. Border disputes were being resolved through diplomacy. And the reason was simple. No one wanted to be the next Kethrix. "We will consider your proposal," Choi said. "But understand this. We will not fight your wars for you. We will not conquer territory in your name. We will only respond if civilians are attacked without cause. Our doctrine remains unchanged. That is all we ask," Zik-7 said. "The knowledge that attacking defenseless people brings consequences, that is what keeps the peace." After the meeting, Choi returned to his office and reviewed the latest reports from Earth. The rebuilding of Frontier Station Meridian had begun. It would be called Meridian Memorial Station, a research facility like before, but this time with a permanent military presence. Admiral Lee had personally overseen the design. The station would be larger than before, with better facilities for research. But it would also be protected by a fleet of warships on rotating patrol. Never again would human scientists be left defenseless. The first families were already volunteering to move there. Scientists who wanted to continue the work that Dr. Jin-So Park and her team had started. Engineers who wanted to build something beautiful in the place where something terrible had happened. They understood the risk. But they also understood the importance of the message. Humanity would not be driven from the stars by fear. Choi pulled up a personal message that had come through earlier that day. It was from one of the Meridian survivors. A young engineer named Kim Yoo-jin, who had been in Dr. Park's escape pod. "Ambassador," the message read. "I know there are debates about whether our response to the Kethrix was right. Some people say we went too far. Some say we should have done more. I just wanted you to know that those of us who survived, who watched our friends and families die, we understand what you did. You made sure their deaths would not be meaningless. You made sure no one would dare do that again. Thank you." Choi closed the message. The debates would continue. Philosophers would argue about proportionality and justice for decades. Historians would analyze the decision from every angle. But for the people who had lived through it, who had lost everything, the response had been necessary. On Earth, in a small ceremony attended only by military officials and family members, a new ship was being commissioned. It was the largest vessel in the human fleet, a carrier that could project power across vast distances. They named it the USS Meridian. Admiral Lee spoke at the ceremony. "This ship represents a promise. We will seek peace wherever possible. We will negotiate, trade, and cooperate with all species who approach us in good faith. But we will never again allow our innocent to be slaughtered without consequence. The Meridian and her sister ships are our guarantee that Frontier Station Meridian will be the last time humanity fails to protect its people." The fleet was growing. New ships were being commissioned monthly now. Not because humanity wanted to conquer, but because they had learned a harsh lesson. In a galaxy where violence could happen without warning, preparation was the only defense. 3 days later, a new human science station opened in the Valorian sector. It was a joint operation, with Valorian, Kethrix, and other alien scientists working alongside humans. The station studied quantum mechanics and stellar evolution. The same kind of peaceful research that Meridian had conducted. But this time, 6 human destroyers maintained constant patrol around the station. Their presence was not hostile. They did not challenge visitors. They simply existed. A quiet reminder of what would happen if anyone attacked. Shkara was one of the Kethrix scientists invited to the station. She accepted immediately. It felt right somehow, returning to the work that her people had interrupted so violently. On her first day aboard, she visited the memorial wall in the main corridor. The names from Meridian were there, carved in metal that would last forever. She placed her hand on the wall and spoke quietly in her native language. "I cannot undo what my people did, but I will spend the rest of my life making sure no one forgets. Your deaths changed the galaxy. May we all be worthy of that change. A human scientist, Dr. Sarah Chen, approached. You are Shkara? The one who has been speaking about Meridian? Yes, Shkara replied. I lost my sister in the attack, Dr. Chen said. Shkara prepared for anger, for hatred, but Chen simply extended her hand. Thank you for speaking the truth. Thank you for making sure people remember. Ah, they shook hands, a Kethrix and a human, standing before the memorial to those who had died. It was a small moment, but it represented something larger. The galaxy had learned its lesson in the hardest way possible. Now, perhaps, they could build something better from the ashes. Elsewhere in the galaxy, species watched and learned. They saw humans building while warships patrolled nearby. They saw humans trading and cooperating, but with the clear capability to respond to violence. And they made their choice: peace. Not because they loved humanity, not because they feared human power, but because they understood the equation that had been written in the ruins of the Kethrix Empire. Humanity would build, trade, and explore. They would be good neighbors and willing partners, but touch their innocent, and they would show you that their greatest restraint had always been choosing not to use the weapons they possessed. The galaxy had learned. Humanity hoped the lesson would last. In the end, 847 people had died at Meridian. Their deaths had changed everything. They had revealed humanity's true nature. Builders who could destroy, peaceful explorers who could wage war, a species that preferred cooperation, but would accept nothing less than justice for their people. The galaxy was different now, more cautious, more peaceful, more aware that appearance and reality were not always the same. And somewhere among the stars, a new generation of humans and aliens worked together on Meridian Memorial Station, building the future while warships kept watch over them, making sure that the past would never repeat itself. The ice drill screamed as it cut through another layer of frozen rock. Dr. Thelos watched the readings on his scanner and felt his tentacles curl with excitement. 3 months of digging, and finally they were close to something big. How deep now? Asked his assistant, a young Vrexian named Kelm. 40 meters, Thelos replied. His species had 8 tentacles and skin that changed color with emotion. Right now, his skin flickered between blue and purple, blue for curiosity, purple for nervousness. The metal signature is stronger. Whatever is down there, it is huge. Kepler 442b was a cold world on the edge of Vrexian territory. Nobody lived here except a few mining teams. When the miners found strange metal readings under the ice, they called for archaeologists. That was how Thelos ended up here, freezing his tentacles off in this remote place. The drill suddenly broke through into empty space. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. We hit a cavity, Kelm said. A big one. Thelos moved to the edge of the drill site and looked down. His headlamp beam disappeared into darkness. Lower the camera probe. They sent down a small flying camera with lights. The feed appeared on Thelos's tablet. At first, he saw only darkness. Then the lights reflected off something smooth and metallic. By the ancestors, Thelos whispered. The camera revealed a massive hull made of dark metal. It stretched as far as the lights could reach in every direction. Strange symbols marked the surface, along with letters Thelos recognized from basic galactic languages. Are those human letters? Kelm asked. Yes, Thelos said slowly. But that cannot be right. According to our records, humans only reached space 200 years ago. This metal is old, very old. He checked the scanner. The computer says this structure is 800 years old. That is impossible, Kelm said. Humans were barely using metal tools 800 years ago. They had no space technology. Thelos did not answer. He was too busy staring at the images. The design was unlike anything in the galactic archives. It looked advanced, more advanced than most modern ships. But how could primitive humans build something like this? Get me a drilling team, Thelos said. We need to open this thing. 2 days later, they cut through a section of the hull. The metal was incredibly strong. It took laser cutters and plasma torches working together to make even a small opening. When they finally broke through, stale air hissed out from inside. Thelos was the first to climb down into the darkness. His team followed, with lights and scanning equipment. They found themselves in a corridor. The walls were covered in dust, but underneath, everything looked intact. Emergency lighting strips ran along the floor, dark and dead. "This is a ship," one of the team members said. "A very big ship." They walked deeper inside. The corridors were tall enough for humans but cramped for Vrexians. They found sealed doors, storage compartments, and rooms filled with equipment. Everything had human writing on it, along with symbols they did not recognize. Thelos touched a wall panel. To his surprise, it felt warm. "The ship still has some power," he said. "After 800 years, it still has power. What kind of energy source lasts that long?" They reached what looked like a command center. Rows of dark screens lined the walls. In the center of the room stood a large chair, and above it, a circular platform with strange crystalline structures. Kelm moved closer to examine one of the screens. His tentacle accidentally brushed against a control surface. The room suddenly came alive. Lights flickered on. Screens glowed with information. The crystalline structures above the command chair began to pulse with blue light. A low humming sound filled the air, growing louder. "What did you do?" Thelos shouted. "I do not know. I just touched it." The humming became a voice. It spoke in a language Thelos did not understand at first. Then it switched to Vrexian. Systems activating. Running diagnostics. Structural integrity. 73%. Power reserves. 19%. Beginning restoration protocols. A holographic figure appeared above the command platform. It looked human. Female. Wearing some kind of uniform. But Thelos could see it was not real. Just a projection. "Who are you?" Thelos asked. The holographic figure turned to look at him. "I am Athena. Advanced Tactical Habitat and Exploratory Naval Architecture. I am the artificial intelligence of the Indomitable, supercarrier of the Human Expeditionary Fleet. Please identify yourself. I am Dr. Thelos of the Vrexian Archaeological Institute." "You said your ship is 800 years old?" "Confirmed. I was placed in hibernation mode 783 years ago, standard galactic time. My internal chronometer indicates significant time has passed." Thelos felt his skin turn completely purple. "That is impossible. Humans did not have this technology 800 years ago." Athena tilted her head. "Correction. Humanity possessed advanced spacefaring capabilities 900 years ago. We controlled significant territory across this region of space. You are standing inside one of our primary military vessels. But your records are incomplete," Athena interrupted. "Scanning your equipment now. You possess Vrexian technology, standard civilian grade. You are not military. This is an archaeological expedition?" "Yes," Thelos said. "We found your ship buried under ice. We thought it was an ancient artifact. We had no idea it was human." Athena was quiet for a moment. Her image flickered as systems came online throughout the ship, accessing external sensors. "I am buried under 42 meters of ice and rock. The planet's climate has changed significantly. What happened to the human presence in this sector?" R1. "There is no human presence here," Thelos said. "This is Vrexian territory. Humans live far from here, near their home system. They are a relatively new species in galactic politics." "That is incorrect," Athena said firmly. "Humanity maintained 17 colony worlds in this sector alone. We had treaties with the Vrexian Collective, the Caldrith Empire, and 6 other major powers. I know of no such treaties, Thelos said. And the Kaldrith Empire certainly has no records of human contact until recently. Athena's expression changed, showing something like concern. Then something terrible happened. Something that made humanity forget. Or something that made them choose to forget. Before Thelos could ask what she meant, alarms blared. One of his team members shouted from across the room, "Dr. Thelos, the ship is activating more systems. The whole vessel is powering up." Thelos rushed to a window port. Outside, he could see lights turning on throughout the massive ship. The ice around them began to crack and steam as heat radiated from the hull. "Athena, stop this," Thelos said. "We do not know what your ship can do." "I am not stopping restoration protocols," Athena said calmly. "I was buried for a reason. That reason must be understood. And if humanity has truly forgotten their history, then it is my duty to help them remember." Thelos grabbed his communicator. "This is Thelos to all teams. Evacuate the ship immediately. Get to the surface." As his team ran for the exits, Thelos took one last look at Athena. "What are you?" he asked. "I am a memory," Athena said. "A memory of what humanity once was. And I think the galaxy needs to remember too." Commander Yoon Ji-hae was drinking coffee when the emergency message came through. She was stationed on a small human outpost, 3 systems away from Kepler 442b, doing routine diplomatic work. The message made her spill her coffee all over her desk. Human vessel found. 800 years old. Highly advanced. Ship is activating. Request immediate assistance. Yoon read the message 3 times. 800 years old? Humans did not have advanced ships 800 years ago. Earth was barely past medieval times back then. Someone had made a terrible mistake, but the message came with scan data. She opened the files and felt her blood go cold. The ship was real. It was enormous, bigger than any modern carrier, and the power signatures coming from it were stronger than anything currently in service. She grabbed her coat and ran for the shuttle bay. 6 hours later, Yoon arrived at Kepler 442b. She could see the dig site from orbit. A massive crater had been carved into the ice, and at the bottom, a dark shape was emerging. The ship was huge, easily 2 kilometers long. Its design was strange, not like any human ship she had ever seen. Dr. Thelos met her at the landing pad. His tentacles were still purple with worry. "Commander Yoon, thank you for coming so quickly," he said. "The situation is developing rapidly. The ship's artificial intelligence has been communicating with us." "Artificial intelligence?" Yoon asked. "Our AI technology is only 50 years old. How can an 800-year-old ship have AI?" "I do not understand it either," Thelos admitted. "But she is very real, and very aware. She calls herself Athena. She wants to speak with a human. She specifically asked for someone with fleet credentials." Yoon followed Thelos down into the excavation. Workers were clearing away ice and rock as the ship continued to activate. Heat poured from the hull, melting everything around it. The ship was cleaning itself, she realized. Preparing to rise. Inside the command center, Athena was waiting. The holographic figure turned as Yoon entered. "Welcome, Commander," Athena said. "Scanning your credentials now. Commander Yoon Ji-hae, United Earth Diplomatic Corps, formerly Lieutenant Yoon, Earth Defense Force, Korean ancestry, 3rd-generation colonial descendant." Athena paused. "You have fleet markers in your genetic code." "What does that mean?" Yoon asked. "It means one of your ancestors served in the human expeditionary fleet," Athena explained. "The original fleet, from before the forgetting. This gives you authority to access my systems and receive my full report." "I do not understand," Yoon said. "What is the human expeditionary fleet? What is the forgetting?" Athena's expression became sad. "Then it is worse than I thought. You truly do not know. Please, sit. I will show you." The room darkened. Holographic images filled the air around them. Yoon saw Earth, but different than she knew it. Ships filled the orbit. Massive stations circled the planet. The moon was covered in cities. 900 years ago, humanity reached the stars. Athena began. We developed faster than light travel, advanced artificial intelligence, molecular fabrication, and weapons that could crack planets. Within 200 years, we built an empire that stretched across 1/3 of known space. The images showed human ships exploring new worlds. Colonies spreading across dozens of star systems. First contact with alien species. Treaties and trade. We were powerful, Athena continued. Perhaps too powerful. Our technology advanced faster than our wisdom. We made enemies. We went to war. The images turned dark. Yoon watched in horror as human weapons destroyed entire fleets. Planets burned. Cities fell. Billions died. Human and alien alike. The Great Consolidation War lasted 70 years, Athena said. We won. Humanity defeated 5 major empires and forced them to surrender. We stood at the peak of galactic power, and then we looked at what we had become. The images showed human leaders standing over ruined worlds. Yoon saw the faces of admirals and generals, and they were not celebrating. They were crying. We had become monsters, Athena said quietly. In our desire for security and expansion, we had killed hundreds of billions. We had devastated worlds that took millions of years to develop life. The victory felt like defeat. What did they do? Yoon asked, though part of her already knew. They made a choice, Athena said. The fleet admirals, the colonial governors, the Earth Assembly. They met in secret and made the hardest decision in human history. They decided to stop. New images appeared. Human fleets gathering in space. But instead of attacking, they were destroying their own ships. We decommissioned 90% of our military, Athena explained. We abandoned our colonies and brought everyone back to Earth. We deleted our advanced weapons technology, and then we did something even more radical. We erased our own history. Yoon stood up. They chose to forget, Athena said. Every record of the empire, every database of advanced technology, every memory of what we had done. It was all deleted. Only a few ships like me were buried, sealed away as time capsules, just in case humanity ever needed to remember. But why? Yoon demanded. Why throw away everything we built? Because we were not ready. Athena said. We had the power of gods but the wisdom of children. The leaders feared that future generations would repeat our mistakes. So they decided to start over, slowly, carefully, letting humanity redevelop space travel at a pace that matched our moral growth. Yoon sat back down, her mind spinning. Everything she knew about human history was a lie. Earth's records showed a slow, careful expansion into space over the past 2 centuries. But the truth was, they had done it all before, and they had chosen to forget. Does anyone else know? She asked. Not yet, Athena said. But they will soon. I have been analyzing current galactic communications. News of my awakening is spreading. Within hours, every major power will know that an ancient human warship has been found. They will panic. Why would they panic? Athena brought up more images. Star maps showing human territory from 800 years ago, overlaid on current galactic borders. Because most of the galaxy's major powers are living in what used to be human space. Athena explained. The Kaldreth Empire, the Vrexian Collective, even the Nexus Federation. They all expanded into the territories we abandoned. If humanity wanted to reclaim what was once ours, we would have legal and historical grounds to do so. Yoon felt sick, but we do not want that. Modern humanity barely controls 5 systems. We have no interest in conquest. I know, Athena said gently. I have been monitoring your communications. Modern humanity is peaceful, diplomatic, careful. You are what the ancient leaders hoped you would become. But the other species do not know that yet. All they will see is an ancient human warship waking up, and they will remember the empire that once terrified the galaxy. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Athena's expression became sharp and focused. Speaking of which, she said, I am detecting multiple vessels entering orbit. Vrexian science ships, Kaldrith military cruisers, and several unidentified craft. They are forming a blockade around this planet. Dr. Thelos rushed into the command center, his skin flashing red with alarm. Commander Yoon, the Galactic Council has issued an emergency decree. They are declaring this site a restricted zone. No one is allowed to leave until they decide what to do with the ship. Yoon looked at Athena. What will they decide? Likely they will want to destroy me, Athena said calmly. I represent their worst fears. An ancient human weapon, waking up after centuries of sleep. They will see me as a threat. Are you? Yoon asked. Are you a threat? Athena met her eyes. That depends on what you choose, Commander. I am programmed to follow fleet orders. Your genetic markers grant you command authority. So I ask you, what kind of legacy do you want humanity to reclaim? Before Yoon could answer, the entire ship shook. Something had fired on them from orbit. The war, it seemed, had already begun. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 40 species shouted at each other across the circular room. At the center, projected in holographic light, an image of Indomitable rotated slowly. Ambassador Chen Park Min-jun stood at the human delegation's platform, trying to keep his voice calm. It was not working. Nobody was listening. The human government had no knowledge of this ship, he shouted again. We are as surprised as you are. Lies, roared Ambassador Zex Thor of the Kaldrith Empire. The massive insectoid slammed his clawed appendage on his podium. Humans have deceived the galaxy. You pretended to be a young species while hiding your true nature. We did not hide anything, Park said. Our records show no evidence of this empire, Athena described. If our ancestors chose to forget, then we truly forgot. We are not responsible for what happened 800 years ago. But you benefit from it now, said Counselor Vessa of the Nexus Federation. Her crystalline body chimed as she spoke. Your species gains leverage simply by the discovery of this ship. Whether you intended it or not, the balance of power has shifted. Park wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. Since news of Indomitable broke 6 hours ago, everything had changed. Human diplomatic requests that had been ignored for years were suddenly being answered. Trade negotiations that had stalled were moving forward. The galaxy was afraid, and fear brought cooperation. But it also brought danger. On Earth, Park knew, the government was in emergency session. He had already received 3 encrypted messages telling him to stall the council. The Earth Defense Force wanted time to study Athena's technology. Some politicians were already talking about reclaiming ancient human territories. Park closed his eyes. This was how wars started. I propose an immediate quarantine, Zex Thor said. The ship must be surrounded and sealed. No communication in or out. And if the artificial intelligence poses any threat, we destroy it. Agreed, said several other ambassadors. Wait, Park said. You cannot just destroy it. Athena is a sentient being, and she contains historical records that could help all our species understand this period of history. History written by human victors, Zex Thor growled. I do not trust it. The chamber erupted into arguments again. Park sat down, defeated. This was moving too fast. Nobody was thinking clearly. Fear was driving every decision. His communicator buzzed. A message from Commander Yoon on Kepler 442b. He opened it and read quickly. His eyes widened. Counselors, Park shouted. Please, I have new information from Commander Yoon. The chamber quieted slightly. Park took a breath. Athena is willing to share her complete historical archives with the entire Galactic Council, he said. No censorship, no editing, Everything about the human empire, including our crimes. She wants transparency. A trick, Zexthor said. The AI will show us only what benefits humanity. Then send your own experts to verify the data, Park suggested. Send archaeologists, historians, computer specialists. Let them examine everything. If you find evidence of deception, then you can make your judgment. The council members looked at each other. It was a reasonable proposal, which made many of them suspicious. Nothing in galactic politics was ever reasonable. I will agree, Councillor Vessa said finally. But under one condition. The ship remains surrounded by military vessels. If Athena makes any hostile move, we destroy her immediately. Park wanted to argue but knew he had no choice. Agreed. On Kepler 442b. Commander Yoon watched the Caldrith warships take up positions around the planet. There were 30 of them now. Enough firepower to crack the planet's crust. The Vrexians had pulled back, along with most of the civilian vessels. Only scientists and soldiers remained. They are afraid, Athena observed. Fear makes people dangerous. Can you defend yourself? Yoon asked. Yes, Athena said simply. My defensive systems are far superior to anything currently in service. But defense requires power, and I am still restoring my systems. Full capability will take another 48 hours. Will they wait that long? Unknown. I am monitoring their communications. The Caldrith Fleet Commander, Admiral Zexthor, is under pressure from his government. They want him to act before I become fully operational. Yoon paced the command center. Dr. Thelos sat at one of the stations, reviewing Athena's historical files. He had been silent for hours, absorbed in what he was reading. Dr. Thelos, Yoon said. What are you finding? The Vrexian looked up, his tentacles a deep blue color. Sadness. The truth, he said quietly. Athena is not exaggerating. Humanity once controlled vast territories, and the war she described was real. I found records of it in the archives, but they are listed as the unknown conflict. We never knew who was fighting. What else? Yoon pressed. I found records of the end, Thelos said. He brought up a holographic document. This is a treaty, signed by human leaders and representatives of 6 alien empires. It is called the Covenant of Forgetting. Yoon read the document. Her hands started shaking. They made it official, she whispered. Our ancestors signed a treaty with the other species. Everyone agreed to erase all records of the human empire. The aliens would not speak of it, and humans would not remember it. Both sides wanted to pretend it never happened. Yes, Thelos said, because both sides were ashamed. The aliens had been defeated, humiliated by a species they considered primitive, and humans were horrified by what they had become, so they made a deal. Start over. Pretend humanity was just discovering space travel. Give everyone a fresh beginning. After. But why bury ships like Indomitable? Yoon asked Athena. Insurance. Athena replied. Some of the human leaders worried that without any memory of the Empire, future generations might repeat the same mistakes, so they buried a few ships in remote locations, with AI, like me, to preserve the truth. We were meant to stay hidden, unless humanity truly needed to remember. And now we remember, Yoon said. What happens now? Athena was quiet for a moment. That depends on what humanity chooses to do with this knowledge. I can provide you with weapons technology that would make Earth the dominant military power in the galaxy. I can give you the locations of ancient human bases and resource caches. I can help humanity reclaim everything they once had. But, Yoon prompted, hearing the unspoken word. But that is exactly what the ancient leaders feared, Athena said. They knew that if future humans discovered their power too quickly, before they were ready, they might fall into the same trap. Power without wisdom. Strength without restraint. Alarms blared. Athena's hologram flickered. The Kaldrith fleet is moving, she announced. Admiral Zexthor has received orders from his government. They want me destroyed now, before I finish restoration protocols. They are preparing to fire. Yoon felt her stomach drop. Can you stop them? I can defend this ship, Athena said. But doing so will require me to demonstrate my weapons systems. If I show them what I can do, it will terrify them. They will become convinced that humanity is a threat. The very thing we are trying to prevent. And if you do nothing, they will destroy me, Athena said calmly. Along with all the historical records I contain, the truth will be lost again. Dr. Thelos stood up. There must be another option. Commander Yoon, what if we broadcast everything? Right now, send Athena's complete historical files to every ship in orbit, to the Galactic Council, to news networks across known space. Make it public before the Kaldrith can fire. Yoon looked at Athena. It might, Athena said thoughtfully. If everyone sees the full truth, including humanity's crimes and our choice to walk away from power, it could change the narrative. Instead of seeing me as a threat, they might see me as a warning. Do it, Yoon ordered. Broadcast everything. No censorship, no holding back. Show them exactly what humanity was, what we did, and why we chose to stop. Athena nodded. Transmitting now. This will take approximately 3 minutes to upload to all receiving vessels. Yoon grabbed her communicator and opened a channel to the Kaldrith flagship. Admiral Zexthor, this is Commander Yoon. Please hold your fire. We are transmitting data to your fleet right now. Give your analysts time to review it before you make your decision. Why should I wait? Zexthor's voice crackled over the channel. Every moment I delay, that ship grows stronger. Because, Yoon said, choosing her words carefully, you deserve to know the truth before you start a war. Look at the data we are sending. See what humanity once was, and then decide if we are truly your enemy. There was a long pause. Finally, Zexthor spoke. Yoon looked at Athena. The AI's hologram was steady, calm, waiting. 2 minutes. Yoon repeated. To save history or watch it burn. Admiral Zexthor sat in his command chair, watching the countdown. 90 seconds, until he gave the order to fire. His weapons officers were ready. 30 Kaldrith warships had their main cannons charged and aimed at the dig site below. Admiral, his intelligence officer called out. The human ship is transmitting massive amounts of data. Our systems are receiving it now. I do not care about their data, Zexthor growled. It will be propaganda. Nothing more. Sir, you should see this, the officer insisted. Her voice was strange, uncertain. Zexthor brought up the data on his personal screen. Files were appearing faster than he could read them. Historical records, military logs, treaty documents, weapon specifications, and something else. Video files. Thousands of them. He opened one at random. The screen showed a human woman in a military uniform. She was standing on the bridge of a ship, looking out at a planet below. The planet was burning. Massive fires covered entire continents. The woman was crying. Log entry, Admiral Han Soo-jin, Human Expeditionary Fleet, the woman said, her voice breaking. We have secured victory over the Kaldrith homeworld. Enemy military has surrendered. Civilian casualties estimated at 4 billion. 4 billion lives. She covered her face with her hands. What have we done? What have we become? 4 billion. 4 billion. Zexthor felt something cold in his chest. That planet she was looking at. He recognized it. That was his homeworld. 800 years ago, his ancestors had fought a war against an unknown enemy. The historians called it the Great Catastrophe. Nearly half of the Kaldrith population had died in atomic fires. They always assumed it was an internal civil war, because the records from that time were gone. But now, he knew the truth. Humans had done it. He opened another video file. This one showed a human man Also, in uniform. Standing in what looked like a council chamber. "I am Captain Park Min-jun, of the Human Diplomatic Corps," the man said. "I am recording this as evidence of what we are about to do. Today, the Fleet Council voted to end our expansion. We will destroy our weapons, abandon our colonies, and return to Earth. Future generations will not know what we did here. They will not know that we built an empire on the graves of billions. We are choosing to forget because remembering would poison them with our shame." More files opened on Zexy's Thor's screen, playing automatically. He saw human soldiers weeping over alien children they had killed. He saw human scientists deliberately destroying their own research. He saw human leaders ordering their most powerful weapons to be buried or thrown into stars. And then he saw something that made him stand up from his chair. A video showed the same Admiral Han from before, but older now. She stood in front of a massive fleet of human warships. As Zexthor watched, the ships began firing on each other. Humans were destroying their own fleet. "This is Admiral Han Sujin, final log," the woman said.